Hey friends, it's Elizabeth. Thanks for checking out our videos. I'm here in one of my favorite rooms. Love this artwork behind me on the wallpaper. Growing up, I actually had dreams of becoming an artist. I wanted to draw fashion designs or become an interior designer. And as a kid, there was a period of time where that was the most important thing to me. I loved drawing. I bought a sketchbook and pencils. I always asked for art supplies for birthdays and Christmas, and would draw constantly in my free time. Then at some point, I started doing other things and had less time to draw. So anyways, here I am today, not drawing dresses for Vera Wang or designing the interior of Taylor Swift's house. It's funny how quickly a dream can change or fade. Have you ever had a big dream, idea, or goal of something that you wanted to become great at? Maybe you even started and put in the work, then you forgot about it. Maybe it wasn't drawing. Maybe you wanted to start your own YouTube channel. Or you're an athlete and you had goals to level up your skills this year. Or you were going to work really hard on your grades this school year. But here you are, months later, not where you wanted to be. The quickest way for something to go from super important to kind of forgot about it is for it to be out of our sight. So, we say out of sight, out of mind. And that's definitely a real thing. And this isn't just true about activities or goals we have. Think about it when it comes to people, like your friendships. When we lose connection with our friends, we sometimes fill our heads with ideas about things that may have changed since the last time we saw them. Like, are we really still friends? Are they mad at me for something I maybe said or did? Did they replace me with someone else? Sometimes friendships slowly drift apart. We begin to question things and doubt the friendship. And it all starts with the lack of interaction or time together. So what happens with us and a dream we want to accomplish but end up abandoning is the same thing that happens with friends we want to stay close to but end up drifting apart from. Without making a habit out of spending time with people we care about, or without making a habit out of practicing the skills we need to make the dream come true, we don't accomplish them. So there's possibly many of you who may have just started an exciting new relationship with God, or maybe you've been following Jesus for a while, but you don't want to drift apart from him. Whatever idea you have of what you think a relationship with God looks like, maybe it just isn't happening and it feels a bit like the goal you abandoned and the friendship that just isn't the same. Then the question you are asking is this the way it has to be? Now, when he was on earth, Jesus had a moment when he was surrounded by several religious experts. They loved asking him questions, sometimes because they wanted to learn from him, but mainly because they wanted to try and trip him up. They wanted to catch him saying something that would cause Jesus to lose his influence and ruin his reputation. At one point, one of the religious leaders asked Jesus what the greatest commandment was. These religious leaders thought they understood God and his law better than anyone. Following God's rules were front and center of their entire lives. Now, in front of a crowd of people, they asked Jesus, out of the hundreds of laws and commandments, which one would he make number one? Jesus responded with an answer that every one of the teachers and experts of the law would have known by heart because they'd heard it their entire lives. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. Jesus tells us what he wants us to do. Love an invisible God with everything we have, but he doesn't say how at that moment. Later, Jesus uses an illustration to help explain that. John, who is one of Jesus's followers and friends, records a big conversation between Jesus and his disciples. Jesus knew that while he was visible to his friends at that moment, he wouldn't be much longer, because eventually he would return to heaven and no longer walk on earth. So this didn't mean that Jesus would no longer exist. He would just no longer be visible in the way they had gotten used to. With that in mind, Jesus gives them an illustration. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Now, back then, agriculture or farming was as common and popular as cell phones are today. It was a part of everyday life. Everybody knew about farming, vines, and plant life. Therefore, they would have immediately known that the branch of a plant can only create fruit if that fruit is connected to the nutrients the vine provides. So some of y'all that might make sense to, because we still have agriculture here, but just in case, let's put it in terms we would maybe use today. It would be like saying that a power cord gets the electricity it needs from the power outlet to give power to whatever is plugged into it. Most of us have things at home that need to be plugged in to an outlet in order to work, right? Televisions, hair straighteners, coffee pots. The list could literally go on for days. So think about the incredible things you can do and all the people you connect with through your phone, through your Xbox or PlayStation. If your Xbox is connected to an outlet, it can do wonders, right? If your Xbox is unplugged, it's basically a pile of metal. If your phone is connected to an outlet, it's the single most innovative piece of technology of all time. If your phone has no battery left, it has all this potential, but that's all it is potential. If your device is connected to an outlet, it has true power. But if your device has no electricity, it's dead. And so this is a lot like you and your relationship with God. You have so much power and so much potential to do so many things. You can love your friends, you can serve your family, you can make wise decisions, you can pursue God's plan for your life. You can change the world right where you are simply by living the life God has called you to live. You can do all of these things and more in your everyday life if you are plugged in. That's when you begin to bear fruit, which is equal to your devices being powered up. When you are connected to God, you get to live as the single greatest creation of all time. And God said so when he made you. If you aren't connected, you have all the potential in the world, but there's something standing in the way. You're still the greatest creation of all time, but there's a gap between where you are and where you could be. And so we need to stay connected to God to know God, and we need to know God in order to love God more. And loving God, that's what Jesus said was the most important commandment of all time. In order to love God with everything we are, we need to be connected to him with all that we are. So think of it this way. Connecting with God helps us know him better. Connecting with God will help you know him better, but connecting with an invisible God will take some effort. It'll take making connection a habit, loving God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength means that we're putting in the effort over time to make it happen. So how do we do that? Well, there are lots of ways to connect with God. So we're going to start with one simple idea. Spend time with God. Mind-blowing, right? Over the next few weeks, we are going to talk more specifically about ways that you can spend time with God. But this week, I want to give you a challenge to spend 15 minutes with God each day. So you may ask, doing what? Well, here's some ideas. You could listen to worship music and think about God while you do. Go for a walk and pray, talking to God about things you are grateful for or need help with. Write down some prayers, thoughts, or questions in a journal. You could also read devotionals on YouVersion. We also always have devotionals that go along with our series. So you can pick one, go for it, or you can, create your own, mesh them together. Just come up with some ideas on how to build habits to get to know God in everyday ways. Whatever you decide, it doesn't have to be perfect or feel magical. There's one goal and one point of spending time with God, and that's to get to know Him better by connecting with Him. Getting to know and connecting with a God we can't see will take time. It will take creating a habit over time before it starts to feel easier and more natural. But I love this phrase out of the book of James in the New Testament. Come near to God and He will come near to you. Even though God is with us literally all the time, the habit of spending time with Him will eventually bring a feeling of closeness we maybe haven't experienced before. Imagine for a second if you made a habit out of connecting with God. What if, because of this habit, you felt comfortable with Him, closer to Him? What if in the process of spending time with Him, you really began to notice yourself loving God with more of your heart, mind, soul, and strength? How cool would it be to feel like you were connected to the power, presence, and love of God? And here's the thing, God wants you to make a habit of spending time with Him, of getting close to Him. And it's not because He wants to control you, but because He wants to also be close to you. Connecting with God helps us know Him better.